I'm so happy that you're here. I love you. I'm one of a zillion people who loves you, but I do. My kids do. We jam, we blast it. You are a delight. You are so unusual in the music business to be as grounded and vulnerable and talented and cute. Those are not all things that come together. So yay, Andy Grammer. So happy you're here. Welcome.
Lovely to be here. Thank you for having me.
All right. So we're going to dive into your journey. And I started the show 5 years ago in my closet, living in LA. And now it's about 30 million downloads later. And everybody's interested in one conversation, which is how do I have a more purposeful, meaningful life? So, and how do I get to do something I love that lights up the world? And could I ever do that and not have to like work? So you've lived all of that. So I want to talk about that journey. How the heck did you, and then we'll go into sort of some deeper pieces of like what's going on for you like now and during the pandemic, because I read some of that juicy stuff. But like, How did you get to be the person that we all get to experience? How did that happen that you got to be making that music and that it became something the whole world got to be a part of?
There's so many avenues to go down. Okay. I think there's two paths. Like, I don't think if you want to do it as a career, that's a different path. And if you just want to be happy and live like a crazy fun life, that is totally at your disposal at all times, I think. So there's like habits you can have to just feel like more fulfilled. If you want it to be your career, there's an entrepreneurial side, which is really intense. And that side for me started as a street performer. And there has to be this moment in you where you kind of have like, I don't know if your listeners have ever seen Braveheart, but there's that. Whatever the Braveheart speech of like, I'm going to go crazy and just unapologetically swing for the fences in all directions to get distance between me and the ground with my business. That is, maybe some people do it without that, but I don't think they do. There's like a real push in the early stages of business that has to happen. And for me, that was street performing. Like, I went to school for music. And then I got my degree, and the same day that I got like my degree, I walked across the stage, and then I put all my crap in my little like Honda and drove over to the street and just started to perform. Because it was like, No one wanted me to play. There was nobody asking for me. There was no, there was no audience, but it was a freedom of speech situation where you weren't allowed to tell me that I couldn't sing if I had my little permit. So I just went out to the street and started to sing for like 8 hours a day to slowly figure out what it is that works for me. What's my purpose? What's my sound? What's my vibe here? And
wow.
I would take that. I like whenever I talk to music students, or there has to be a little bit of crazy in your eye because you're going to be, while you're like proclaiming what it is that you want to the universe, you need a lot in your tank to fight through all the rejection. Or sometimes it's not even like haters or anything like that. It's just that you're fuzzy at the beginning. So I'm sure when you started this podcast, you're like, I want it to be this.
Oh yeah. And
some people will understand that, but a lot of people won't. And so you just have to jump in and do it a ton of times to then refine. So I always speak to like, what's your gas? What is the thing that is getting you to just continually take steps over and over again? And if you have enough gas, you can do anything.
It's incredible, really, when you like put all that together. And I really got what you mean energetically when you have that like Braveheart moment. You're like, I'm declaring this to the universe. Like, I am just all in, turned on, available for this. And so often, right, so many people will get caught in the like, well, why would I do that if there's like going to be 6 people or 9 people? And they're really looking at the ROI, like what's the immediate return on this time, on this investment, versus if I energetically am just all in, I'm going to show up for this moment fully. I'm not going to wait for someone to tell me Now it's reasonable because here's what's going to happen at 4:00. You're going first. Like you go first, the universe responds. So let's talk about how people can potentially like do that, because that takes a lot of courage.
Yeah.
And vision.
If you really want to do that, think of the world as there's two teams, and there's doers and there's not doers, and there's so many doers. So start like really connecting. Like if you're listening to this in your car or wherever you are, just look around you. I'm looking around me. Okay, there's this Sharpie here. Someone did a Braveheart insane situation to get this to be on my desk. They like went. Someone made this desk that I'm sitting at that I love. They did all the same things I'm talking about. Someone made this microphone. Wherever you are, just look and you'll see bravery and someone that forced through so much of the world saying no to get to the place where it was like, oh, I see you. I get that. I'll take one. Like the amount of insanity that has to happen to get there. So then I would say in the early stages, it's really allegiance to doing over any sort of perfection. And like what you said, like you can't be worried about, is this amount of time that I'm putting in worth it? You kind of have to just swing for the fences, you know, in a lot of ways. Oh my God.
Okay. And so what, go ahead.
Felt like there was a moment in me where I was so fed up with not doing this type of work, where I just almost cracked and was like, okay, no, at whatever cost, I will just go nuts in all directions till I can get a foothold. You know?
Yep.
And then to reassure anyone that's listening, that it's like, it's ugly in the beginning. Like I just finished a tour that was my favorite so far, and you're like moving people's hearts, and it's amazing. And every night I get off stage and go, I am so grateful and thankful to be here. And then also that I did all this weird work to be able to do this. You know? 4 years of performing, all this crazy radio promo, just continually waking up and having a no and figuring out how to turn it into a yes. And the only way that you will fight through that, I would say, is if it's truly your purpose and it's coming from your soul and the reason is good enough as to why you would push through that. You know?
Wow.
And it's worth it. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened? What was the next piece? Like if we're looking at this in like puzzle pieces. Okay. So you go all in, you're on the street performing, and that's chapter, let's call that, just for this story, this is chapter 1, but really there was like 6 stories before it. And then what's the next big story? What happens next? That's the next big chunk, the next milestone.
It's really helpful to demystify this idea of it, like someone just has it, like that I'm supremely talented or lucky or gifted, or like I like to take people all the way through. Okay, so I have a voice that's pretty good, and I think I'm good at writing songs, but it wasn't just there. I started as a street performer, and I'm playing my original songs, and everybody's pretty much like, nah. And the way that they're saying nah is just by just walking by.
Just like not stopping. Yeah.
So that's about a year of that, of not having anything that is of value to anyone and just trying, trying new things and doing covers and seeing like, what is it that I have to offer? And around a year and a half of playing all the time out on the street, I play Sunday Morning, my version of Sunday Morning by Maroon 5, and everybody stops. So now I have one song that is not mine that is giving to people. And as soon as I stop and go back to one of my original songs, everybody's like, anyway, and they like keep moving on and they leave. So you're like, okay. So then I slowly go, I need one of those for me. And I start writing as many songs as I can that are trying to be my version of Sunday Morning. And slowly over, I've been talking months and years, I get one that is my own song that makes people stop. And for old OGs to listen to my music, is a song called The Pocket, which will always hold like a lot for me. Because that was the first one that I wrote that would make people stop on the street. And then basically over 4 years, I developed about 15 to 20 minutes of music that would make people stop. So it's not, oh, that guy's just great. It's not like, oh man, he just had it. I say that I try to like rip the curtain off to be as encouraging as possible. Like, no, you get a breadcrumb here or there as to like, oh, this is one of my things. Okay, cool. Now let me put all my energy into that and build to a place where when I show up to a show, these are like tested, and I'm going to give you something special. But not just because I'm special, because I do think I'm special, but also there's a lot of hard work and diligence put into this craft that I'm trying to do. And so with that in mind, that's really step one, is how do you start? Like, if you have an inkling, it usually comes as like a little whisper, like you should do this podcast, or someone else is like, I feel like you should be painting mugs for some reason.
Right.
Inspiration. And I'm someone that would say, if you have that, just start doing it like crazy. Just do it all the time. And then the world will tell you what it is that's working. And just do it, make it like breathing, and do it all the time. And do it. And then follow what's working. But you only follow it through immense action.
Yep. What's so beautiful that you have as like a thread here is a tremendous amount of empathy for the world. And I can feel it. I mean, I've kind of felt that from you from the second I was aware of you in the world, but you also have it for yourself. And when you said like, that was so generous to be like, look, it's not like he has it, like he starts and like the next day he has a record deal. I get that. But what you do have, which is an it, is the empathy, because you didn't say, I played all these songs and nobody listened. You said, so I started playing my version of Sunday Morning, and then they stopped. And there was now one song that was, this is what you said, it was giving to people.
Yes.
And then you said, so then I thought, what other songs in that direction could I write? And then I had 15 to 20 minutes, and you made it about the empathy for, as opposed to like, you are either going to like these 8 first songs I wrote or forget it. It was like, ooh, I want to use this God-given talent to touch, to imprint, to make something move in someone else. And so you had the empathy for yourself to let go of any kind of like shame around, if I'm not great within the first, 4 hours, forget it. And you had the empathy for other people to design it around what you noticed that made their hearts open, which, can we just give a lot of like credit to that part of you? Because it's amazing.
Thank you. Making me think. I write poetry as well, and I've been doing some of it in the shows, and I have one that fits this right here. And the poem's called Magic, and it's like a conversation between dreamer and universe. Can I do it to you right now?
Are you kidding? Can you do it? Yes.
It says, dreamer, I would like to request some magic, please. Universe, have your actions far exceeded your words? Dreamer, no. Universe, have you failed spectacularly yet still continue? Dreamer, no. Universe, my dear child, we give magic in the middle, not in the beginning. That's it.
Gorgeous. So good. Like, yeah. How lucky am I that I'm sitting here with you, and then you're like, can I just share this? And I just felt like that was one of the most magical moments ever. So, wow. Okay. So then you wind up doing this next thing happens, right? The Alice in the Looking Glass. You went through the Looking Glass. What happened next?
Okay. I'm trying to get off step one, but I have one more story before we get to step two, which is that now I have like 15 minutes where people will stop, but I'm performing out on the street, and this homeless guy is walking by, and he says, "You all right?" I'm like, "All right." And he goes, You don't got hooks though. You need some hooks. You don't got any hooks." And I would say in my life, the only time that criticism really hurts or gets through is when it's true.
Yeah.
Like I can go sing a national anthem for something, or I can play a big TV thing, and then Twitter won't really affect me unless they're saying something that I know to be true. And then you're like, ouch. And so in this moment, this guy was right. I didn't have hooks. And I started really trying to write hooks, as well as, okay, so that happened. And then another thing happened pretty close to that, where it had been a full day and I'd been performing for like 8 to 10 hours just on the street, and it was
God.
fully ignored. For no one put a dollar in my case, no one, not a smile, just a full ignore situation for a whole day. And I actually had a conversation with this guy where I was packing up my cart to go put it in my mom's minivan, and I screamed in the middle of the street like, okay, now it's a little on you because I'm here. And I've been here, and I'm never going to stop, and I will never leave. So if that's what you need to know from me, like, I'm never leaving. If you want my purpose to be that I just play to people that are coming to get jeans for the rest of my life, I'll do that. I'm not going to give up on this. And then I went home and wrote a song called Keep Your Head Up, which was like the song that took me off the street. Yeah. So that's kind of the game. Like, do you get, this is what I try to tell. Like, when I go into speak colleges, I'm like, do you get a little that I'm a little crazy? Like, do you see the crazy in my eye of what like edge you have to be leaning on to like push through this thing here to get to a place where you can be of service to other people? You first have to really stake claim to, I'm here for more than what I'm currently doing, and I will do almost anything. Yeah.
I just started to cry. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really like it's like the world is like a radio, and you just tuned your receiver to this like quantum space, you know, and it's just like, we're just doing this. And then you are now in sync with something that's mystical. It's beyond this 3-dimensional thing, right? And that we all can play there. We just don't always tune the receiver to actually like be in that alignment. And so then what happened with that song? How did it get heard, or how did it get?
Is that my manager met me and saw me on the street, and he had the crazy in his eye. And, together, he's like a huge part of my story. His name is Ben Singer. He's incredible. And I wrote the song Keep Your Head Up. And pretty quickly, even when I was playing that one out on the street, you could see that people were responding to it, and that it had some magic in it.
Yeah.
And so he helped me get that thing recorded, and then that started to go, like, pretty luckily. It went pretty fast for an unknown artist. And then I went on like a crazy radio promo tour where it just so happens that the 15 minutes that I developed that were actually being of service to strangers also worked on radio programmers. So now I'm like using that 15 minutes at 6:30 a.m. in Des Moines, Iowa, to try and convince some radio programmer who doesn't want me to be there, is doing a favor by even hearing me at this time. It was enough to get them to go like, oh, this is pretty good. We'll try it. We'll put it in, you know? And so then there was about 2 years of just running around the country nonstop, hitting 4 radio stations a day.
Oh my God.
Trying to convince people to put it in. Yeah.
And the music is so good. And we've all been on this journey with you. And there's been so many more hits after that. And your team was really generous to share something really vulnerable that you shared over the pandemic, where you started looking at your sense of like self-worth. And because you were writing hit after hit and working, what they shared with me was this piece where you were just talking about how like you started feeling that there was something tied to your productivity, your output, your achievement, right? So let's talk about that a little bit. What was that realization for you, and how can we all sort of like learn from that? Because I think a lot of us are wired that way.
Yeah, it really was a hard stop on the pandemic. I just love to be around a lot of people. I'm not the best at being alone.
Yeah,
I'm gonna get better. I really know how the world works when I'm in a big group of people.
Yeah,
and then when I'm solo, I'm just not the best. Like, that's not where my skills. That's like leg day for me.
Yeah.
So the pandemic will force you into that, where I went from my job being running around trying, like, inspiring and then getting inspired by huge numbers of people, to just being in an office where it was pretty brutal.
Yeah.
And that did a real number on my self-worth in the right way of like, oh, I'm getting I can't have it be that that's where I get everything from. Like I can't have self-worth be tied to a screaming crowd. So I got to figure out and do some real deep, invisible work to get around. And I'm still doing it. It's like harder for me, but I got into therapy and just a lot of like routines and trying to figure out how do we find value in ourselves.
Yeah.
It's hard to even talk about without going like, wah, wah, cheesy. But
No, it's not
really
cheesy.
like, for me, it is. And I've found that it's just work that we got to do. Like at
Oh
some
my
point,
God.
because you still want to be able to enjoy your life, even if you don't have massive success and enjoying the process, but even less about, it used to be like, oh, you just got to enjoy the process, but that still is alluding to the fact that work is going to give you what you need. And I think it's more about, I don't know. It usually comes back to soul for me. Like, how's your soul doing? What do you do for your soul?
Yeah. Speaking of that, we just had Deepak Chopra here to talk about this. And what I love that he said, and I've been using it, I don't know if this will help you, but it's from him. So I feel it's worth sharing. He said, you can sit and you can say, I am Andy Grammer. I would say, I am Cathy Heller. He said, say it 10 times. Great. Now just say, I am. Totally. And the part of you that is the I am, right, was there when you were conceived, zygote, baby, 2, 4, 8, 12. And even though your clothes have changed, your personality's changed, your friends have changed, the I am, right, is the part of you that's connected to the one I am, the soul, the infinite, God, source, universe, all of that, right? And what you do in your show, this is like something that you're so good at this, but this is what happens when we go to the Hollywood Bowl and see you, or whoever you love, you go to see that person. There's a moment at which all these separate individuals, it's just one soul, right? And we all sing together, Fine by Me. And next thing you know, it's like that feeling of connectedness, right? That feeling is why we came, and you became the conduit to the one I am. So really, it's like the part of you, and we all have an ego. We do. We create them to protect ourselves and all of that. There's like a healthiness to it, but there's also an unhealthiness to it. So there is an ego that then it's confusing, because then the world is like, Andy Grammer, like your ego, right? We all do that. We do that even if we're just like a school teacher, we do that. So then you think it's like you as this fictional character. It's like, no, it's the energy you resonate. That's always what it's been. And that's with you when you're alone. It's with you when you're with your kids, right? So that's been helping me a lot. I don't know if that helps you, but I felt like sharing that.
I'm sure you're down. You seem like have you read Big Magic?
Yeah, I love her. She's great. Liz Gilbert. God. Yeah.
Liz Gilbert, the whole idea of genius and that it used to be that you had a genius instead of were the genius.
Right.
I think is a really sweet idea, that there's something in the ether that is your genius that helps you. When I write songs, I like super talk to my mom who passed away, and just this real sense that it's not just me is very helpful. Because you're right, you get off a stage that everything went right. And lately, now I get off and I just go like, oh my God, I'm so lucky to have been in that room. And I know that there's so many pieces, so many people that are here to help that make that happen. There's like 20 of us. There's crew. There's lighting. There's to get off and go like, fuck yeah, me. It's like not what's happening.
But the part of it that's you, which is so obvious from the second I first heard you years ago, is the part of you that allows this to flow through you, the part of you that tunes in to this magic, to this energy, the part of you that has this enthusiasm, this passion, this sweetness, like you have it in spades. That's you, so aligned with the part of you that's not three-dimensional. And that's what everybody gets. So it's like, thank you for doing that. Like if that's the job of all people, is like, could you just surrender your ego a little bit more to let the water flow through the faucet? Because the water's doing the heavy lifting, not the faucet.
It really is, and it's so lucky to get to do it. And then it goes back to the only thing that and I can't even take credit for this, is just you got to fight to get to a place in your life where that happens. Everybody should know that. You just got to fight pretty hard to get to a place to where it flows, where you have the skills, the knowledge, the know-how, the community. Like there's just a lot of building to get it to the place where that can happen at a high level.
It takes a lot of courage. So let's talk about this. You said this last tour was like so good, and you wrote this song Joy and the Art of Joy tour, and it sounds like it was all just a bowl of joy. Why was this so joyful, and why did you want to come back from the pandemic and write these kinds of songs?
You know, it's funny. I knew that joy. I wrote a post on Instagram the other day that right before the tour, I had to just pull over my car and I just cried because, like I said, these things come in whispers. So about 3 years ago, before the pandemic, I had this weird whisper that was like, ooh, a little more Louisiana horns and then this word joy. And that's like all I know. And it feels like, oh, like my whole being goes, I want to go in that direction, but I don't know how to get there. And I'm almost a little embarrassed if I say it out loud, because that isn't exactly what I do. So then I just start kind of what I'm saying, like just start writing so many songs in that direction and come into writing rooms and go like, only thing I know is the word joy and a lot of horns. And so then all these new songs started to come out. And what's so interesting is that the word joy the underpinning of joy to me, I've found for myself, is self-love. Because joy is gladness not based on circumstance. That was like my favorite thing I found. And if you want it to not be based on circumstance, then it's got to come from you. So they're very connected. So there's a song called Damn It Feels Good to Be Me. There's a song I wrote called Love Myself, which was the first love song that I'd written just to me, which was super awkward to write, and I'm glad I did it. It was great.
You're so cute.
And so there was kind of the furthest that I've come, just really settling into not trying to be anything. That is a lifelong battle. That if you are just yourself, that could be better than anything you imagine. We all struggle with that so much, you know. And you said so sweetly at the beginning, like you're this anomaly in the music industry, and I love that, but I also have fought with that in myself, just in with an insecurity of. And I start the set on this Joy tour with a poem that's all about my insecurities, just like lay it out for everybody in the beginning, and then we slowly go through, and it was really, really sweet to be at its highest art form. Being seen is wonderful. To actually just be seen for who you are is like ecstasy, you know?
And it's such a gift that you were available to be seen, right? That you had gone on this journey and were like, you know what? This sounds crazy to write a song to myself, and I will, right? Like to choose that truth, to choose that, and then to call forward that in other people, which is what you then became a match for, you know? So you could then do this work that's like deeper, and it's so good. And I know you have to go, so I want to wrap up and just say, tell us where we can, I know there's a second part of the tour this summer. Where can people get tickets, and where can they follow you and just continue to love up on everything that you're doing?
Go to andygraham.com. Please come. Please come to the show. It's so fun. I have like this awesome female.
You're so fun.
And we've got like an incredible band, and this set has got a lot of fun stuff in it. So yeah, andygraham.com. You can follow me on all the social stuff. But most importantly, chase your dream, chase your purpose, and that would make me the happiest. Honestly, just like go. I have another poem. Hold on, here we go.
Oh my God,
you're
so sweet.
Okay, let's see. This is a poem called Old Drunk Friends. It says, you either haven't done it, can't do it, won't do it, or will never do it again. These are the commercial breaks on the radio station that plays your dreams. Treat them like old drunk friends when they show up. Laugh with them, talk about old times. Keep the conversation light, and never take to heart anything they say. They grew up with you, so they think they know the real you. They have extra influence over your life. They do not. Cool.
It's so cool. And I know that you think it's sweet, and I guess it is sweet, but I'm telling you, we've interviewed 600 people, a lot of people, you know, a lot of famous people like you and authors. And there is something about you that is just, when everyone zigs, you zag. the way you are with your family, the way you care about just the things that you can't see with your eyes. It's very unique. And the ripple effects of you being you are beyond like anything you're ever going to know. So
My goodness.
thanks for showing up and doing it. Thanks for being you.
Same thing. I'm sure you resonate with it because you've done quite a bit for us to meet here at this moment. And so I really appreciate you.
I love it so much.